Hey, everybody. You ever look up at the night sky and just wonder, who else is out there?
Right. It's that age-old question, isn't it? Are we alone in the universe?
Exactly. It's so fascinating. And actually, speaking of that, you guys sent in this sermon by Dr. Brent Gentzel, Aliens, UFOs, and the Search for Truth.
Oh, I love Pastor Brent.
Yeah, and it's all about this question of aliens and UFOs from a Christian perspective.
You know what I find interesting about Dr. Gensel's approach? He doesn't just stop at, are they out there?
Right.
He digs deeper. He wants to know, what does the Bible tell us about other intelligent beings? And how have Christian thinkers throughout history wrestled with this whole question of extraterrestrial life?
Yeah. And with all this talk about UAPs lately, feels like the perfect time for this deep dive.
Absolutely. Those unidentified aerial phenomena the government keeps talking about.
Yeah, it's like it's ripped straight out of the X-Files.
Yeah.
So where does Pastor Brent start with all this?
Well, he actually starts by addressing this whole UAP thing head on. He even shows some of that declassified footage in his sermon. But then he reminds us that the Bible offers a different perspective on intelligent life, maybe even more mind-blowing than aliens.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does he mean?
He starts with the book of Ezekiel. Remember Ezekiel's vision with the whirlwind and the glowing metal?
Oh, yeah, and those crazy wheels within wheels.
It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right?
Totally. You can
Ah.
practically hear the spaceship landing.
Exactly. But Ezekiel doesn't see it as a spaceship. He interprets it as a manifestation of God's glory.
Oh,
Yeah. So Dr. Gensel uses this as a jumping off point to talk about the broader concept of intelligent beings beyond humanity, like angels, for example.
oh, right, like the angel Gabriel appearing to Mary, or the one protecting those guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in that fiery furnace.
Exactly. The Bible's filled with stories about these angelic encounters, and they're not just fluffy, ethereal beings either. They're powerful, intelligent, and they definitely aren't from around here.
And then there's Elijah, right? Swept up to heaven in a whirlwind. Talk about an epic exit.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other kinds of beings might be out there in the vastness of creation?
It does. And speaking of mysterious beings, we can't forget about the Nephilim.
Ah, yes. The Nephilim. Those enigmatic figures from Genesis 6.4.
Described as like heroes of old and men of renown, but their origin is, well, kind of a mystery.
Right. Even Pastor Brent acknowledges the debate surrounding this passage.
Who are these sons of God mentioned in Genesis? Are they fallen angels? A different race of beings altogether?
It's open to interpretation, but the fact that they're even mentioned suggests that the reality of intelligent life might be far more complex than we usually imagine.
So while the Bible doesn't explicitly say aliens exist like we think of them today, it definitely paints a picture of a universe teeming with different kinds of intelligent beings.
Absolutely, and that's where it gets really interesting. Pastor Brent goes on to talk about how Christian thinkers throughout history have grappled with the idea of extraterrestrial life and how it fits in with their faith.
Oh, that's fascinating. So here are some of the thinkers he talks about.
Well, he mentions Billy Graham, for one.
Billy Graham, really?
Yeah, Graham believed that intelligent beings might exist on other planets. And get this, he believed they'd be praising God just like we do here on Earth.
Wow, that's amazing.
And Graham even reassured people that we shouldn't fear these beings, because they too would be part of God's creation.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better about those alien invasion movies. What other thinkers does he bring up?
He also talks about C.S. Lewis and his space trilogy.
Oh, I love C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, and in that series, Lewis envisions these sinless extraterrestrial beings living on other planets.
Sinless. Wow, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it raises some really fascinating questions, like how would their relationship with God be different from ours? Would they even need a savior?
Whoa, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a whole spectrum of thought within Christianity on this issue.
Right. It's not a simple black and white answer, which makes it all the more intriguing.
Totally. And it speaks to the complexity of both our faith and the universe itself.
Exactly. But now I think it's time to shift gears a bit. Let's take a look at this question through a different lens.
Okay, I like where this is going.
The lens of science.
Ooh, all right, let's do it.
So we've talked about the Bible and what it says about intelligent beings, but what about science? What does science tell us about the possibility of life beyond Earth?
Right, because Pastor Brent also dives into that scientific perspective in his sermon.
He does, and he starts with this really cool concept called the fine-tuning of Earth for life.
Yeah, I love this stuff. It's
Yeah.
pretty mind-blowing when you really stop and think about it.
It is. All these factors have to be just right for life to exist. Like we won the cosmic lottery or something.
Seriously, It's like a giant game of Jenga. You pull out the wrong piece and the whole thing collapses.
Exactly. And Pastor Brent highlights a bunch of examples, like the oxygen level in our atmosphere.
It's 21% right. Not too much, not too little.
Perfect for us to breathe. And then there's our distance from the sun, that Goldilocks zone where it's not too hot, not too cold.
Right. Liquid water. That's the key ingredient for life as we know it.
Exactly. And Pastor Brent also talks about Jupiter.
Oh, yeah. Our giant planetary shield.
Seriously, it's like it's out there deflecting asteroids and comets that could wipe us out in an instant.
It's kind of scary when you think about it, but also kind of awesome.
Right. And then there's the Earth's magnetic field. Protects us from harmful radiation from the sun. All these things working together perfectly. It's almost too perfect, you know?
It really makes you wonder, is it all just random chance? Or is there something more going on here?
And that's exactly Pastor Brent's point. He sees this incredible fine-tuning as evidence of a creator. He even ties it back to Psalm 19.1, where it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands."
It makes you look at the night sky with a whole new sense of awe, doesn't it?
It really does. And then Pastor Brent takes this whole idea a step further and brings up the Drake equation.
Oh, yeah. I remember learning about that in school. That thing makes my head spin.
It is kind of complicated, but the basic idea is that it's a formula that tries to estimate the number of intelligent civilizations that might exist in our galaxy.
So it's like taking all those factors we were just talking about, plugging them into an equation, and seeing what we get.
Basically. And it takes into account things like the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars that have planets, the number of those planets that could potentially support life, and then the big question, the fraction of those planets where intelligent life might actually emerge.
And even though there are billions of stars and planets out there, what the Drake equation suggests is that the probability of intelligent life actually developing is pretty slim.
Yeah. Kind of humbling, isn't it? It makes you realize how unique and precious life on Earth really is.
It does. And it makes that fine-tuning argument all the more convincing to me.
Me too. And here's something Pastor Brent points out that I find really fascinating. Even some of the biggest atheists out there, like Carl Sagan and Stephen Hawking, they seem to really want to believe in alien life.
That is interesting. You'd think they'd be like, nope, we're it.
Right. But it seems like they were almost yearning for it, like they knew if we're truly alone in this vast universe, that would be kind of depressing.
So maybe there's something deeper going on there. Maybe this whole fascination with UFOs and aliens is really about something else.
Pastor Brent wonders if it could be a reflection of our longing for God.
Whoa. That's it.
Right. Like maybe on some level, we're all searching for something bigger than ourselves, something that gives meaning and purpose to our lives. And maybe that search is leading us to look beyond our planet to the stars.
I love that idea. So even if we never find aliens or spaceships, maybe this whole search is pointing us towards something even greater.
Exactly. But let's come back down to Earth for a second, because Pastor Brent also brings up another interesting angle in his sermon.
What's that?
The possibility of humans becoming the aliens.
Wait, what?
He talks about Elon Musk and his whole vision of colonizing Mars.
Oh, yeah. Making humans a multiplanetary species.
It's an idea straight out of science fiction, and it really captures the imagination.
It does. To think that we might actually see humans living on another planet within our lifetime is incredible, but I also wonder, is it really that simple?
That's a great question, and Pastor Brent gets into that too. He reminds us that we have to be careful. We can't just go around colonizing other planets without thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, we have a pretty bad track record here on Earth.
Exactly. Pastor Brent reminds us of all the mistakes we've made with colonization in the past, the harm we've inflicted on other cultures and on the environment.
It's a good reminder that even with good intentions, things can go wrong.
Absolutely. And as we venture out into the cosmos, we have to be really thoughtful. We have to approach it with humility and a deep respect for any life we might encounter.
It's not just about exploring and conquering. It's about being good stewards of creation.
Exactly. And Pastor Brent makes another important point. Even if we do manage to colonize Mars or other planets, we're still taking ourselves with us.
So all our problems just come along for the ride.
Pretty much. Pastor Brent reminds us that no matter where we go, we'll always carry our human nature with us. The good, the bad, the light, and the darkness.
It's like that old saying, wherever you go, There you are.
Right. So we can't just escape our problems by blasting off to another planet. Real transformation, real redemption comes from a different place.
It comes from within.
Exactly. Pastor Brent emphasizes that it's not about changing our location. It's about changing our hearts. It's about embracing the transformative power of Christ.
So it's not about finding a perfect planet. It's about letting Christ perfect us.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to those mysterious UAPs that started this whole conversation.
Right. We've gone from ancient Bible stories to astrophysics to space colonization, but we haven't forgotten about those weird objects in the sky.
And here's the thing. Pastor Brent acknowledges that we still don't have a definitive answer about what they are.
Are they super advanced technology?
Uh-huh.
Are they some kind of natural phenomenon we just don't understand yet? Or are they something else entirely?
It's a mystery. But here's what Pastor Brent encourages us to do. Instead of getting all freaked out or obsessed with conspiracy theories, he says we should approach these UAPs with a sense of wonder and curiosity.
Yeah, I like that approach. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole with this stuff.
It is. But Pastor Brent reminds us that ultimately, God is in control. God is sovereign over all creation, seen and unseen.
So even if these UAPs turn out to be something totally mind-blowing, it just shows us how much more there is to discover about God's creation.
Exactly. It expands our understanding of God's power and the vastness of his universe, and that sense of wonder, that awe in the face of the unknown. Well, that can actually deepen our faith and draw us closer to the Creator.
It's amazing how this conversation about aliens and UFOs has gotten us thinking about some pretty deep stuff.
I know, right? It's not just about little green men anymore.
It's about faith
Mm.
and science
Hmm.
and our place in the universe. You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Dr. Gentzel's sermon, I keep thinking about that idea he mentioned, about our fascination with the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe it's a reflection of our longing for God.
It is a really interesting idea. Like, we have this innate desire to know what's out there, what's beyond our own little world.
But like we're hardwired for it.
And Pastor Brent connects that to Ecclesiastes 3.11, where it says God has put eternity in the human heart.
Right.
It's like we intuitively sense that there's got to be more to life than what we see and experience every day.
It makes you think about all those ancient myths and creation stories.
Totally. So many of them feature gods and goddesses coming down from the heavens, interacting with humans, shaping the course of history.
It's like this universal archetype.
Exactly. Something other coming from the sky. Something that inspires both awe and terror.
So maybe those ancient stories were just our ancestors' way of grappling with these same big questions.
Could be. Like they were looking up at the stars and wondering the same things we're wondering now. Are we alone? Is there something more out there?
So it's not just a modern fascination. It's something that's been with humanity for a long time.
Definitely. And maybe whether or not we actually find aliens or spaceships, the more important question is, what does this fascination tell us about ourselves? About our own spiritual yearnings?
Yeah. What does it say about our relationship with God?
Pastor Brent encourages us to see this fascination as a good thing. Not a distraction from our faith, but a way to deepen our understanding of God. He reminds us that God is the author of all creation, seen and unseen.
So even if we discover life on other planets,
Yeah.
it just means God's creation is even bigger and more amazing than we thought.
Exactly. Like the universe is this incredible tapestry that God has woven, and with each new discovery, we get to see another thread, another intricate detail.
And the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know.
Right. Which is actually a good thing, because that sense of humility, of recognizing the limits of our human understanding, well, that can make our faith stronger.
It's like the universe is full of these incredible mysteries that we're just beginning to unravel.
And maybe we're not supposed to have all the answers. Maybe it's about approaching the unknown with a sense of wonder and awe, like a child.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into aliens, UFOs, and the search for truth, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Whether you believe in aliens or not, it's clear that humans are captivated by the possibility of something beyond our own little world.
It's this innate yearning for something more.
So let's embrace that sense of wonder. Let's keep asking questions. Let's keep exploring.
Because in the end, it's all part of the adventure of faith. And who knows what amazing things God has in store for us out there in the vastness of his creation.